Ray Rice wants a second chance at football. Will any NFL team take the bait and give him a new lease on life on the gridiron? I caught up with Terrell Davenport, a Baltimore Ravens beat writer and NFL columnist for the Baltimore Times, and he had some strong opinions on Rice's future in the league and how the NFL ought to handle their domestic violence incidents moving forward. And transitioning now to Ray Rice, when obviously he wants a second chance in the league, and he said that any team that may be interested in him would have to look deeper into the person that he really is. With that said, how hard do you think it'll be for him to convince an NFL team to take a chance on him?
I don't think it's going to be hard for him to convince an NFL team. At this point right now, I don't think he has to convince an NFL team. I think that teams will come to him. If he is going to play, it will require a team coming to him. And that team is going to come to him and just ask him, about the situation. And they're going to look to keep things as PR friendly as possible. Bringing him in, it's not going to be a comfortable situation for the public relations team. You could bet your money on that. But I don't think there is any convincing the team. I mean, what happened. He spent his time outside of the NFL. And if he comes back, it's not going to take a convincing. It's going to take a team just, needing a running back and signing him.
And what do you think if he does get that opportunity? What are some of the first things he has to do both in the locker room and in the court of public opinion, both on and off the field to ingratiate himself back into the league?
Well, I don't know if there is anything that he could do off of the field. At this point right now, the wound is still fresh, so to speak. So if he were to go out there and champion himself as somebody who is fighting domestic violence and doing things to fight it and being overly visible doing that, it's not going to be taken as something that's true. It's not going to be taken as something that's honest. It's going to be taken as a show. And that's even if in his heart, that's what he wanted to do. At this point right now, all he could do, the best thing that he could do is just not have another situation arise. That's really the best thing that he could do. As far as in the locker room, listen, these guys, man, they mix with each other, but at the end of the day, they understand that they're all there to play football. And a guy in the locker room, I'm sure, is not going to have a huge problem with Ray Rice coming aboard. They may have a problem with the quote-unquote distractions, but I don't think that somebody would have a problem with what had happened. I mean, here's an example. William Gay, who plays for the Steelers, his mother was murdered by way of domestic violence, So it's something that definitely really affected him. But when that whole issue came out, he extended himself to Ray Rice. So that's an example of how a guy can be directly affected by the same type of situation and actually be a benefit to Ray Rice. So really the thing that he's really going to have to do is just be himself at the end of the day. But above all else, he needs to avoid any other situation.
And tell me, what sort of issues or what sort of obstacles do you think an owner would have to weigh in deciding whether or not to bring Ray Rice in? How do you think public perception will influence an owner's decision to bring him onto the team, either as a part of the league again and just in the general public?
I think it could have somewhat of an influence. You look at the whole jersey trading that the Ravens had, and just initially the fans were behind it, but once everything came out, it just was a total turnaround. And I think that it will have somewhat of an influence. I mean, nobody wants to do anything to offend their customers. And in the NFL, the fans are your customers. So it's something where you have to weigh the pros versus the cons. And this is one reason why I don't necessarily think Ray Rice is going to be on the NFL roster again, because at this point, his production on the field doesn't really outweigh the whole thing, the distractions and the problems that could come about by bringing him aboard.
And tell me, what do you think the NFL can learn from this Ray Rice situation? What have they learned, and what do you think is the best course of action for the league to deal with domestic violence moving forward?
I think this whole belief by Roger Goodell and a lot of the league officials of taking swift action is wrong. And I think that this is a case where they can learn that taking action quickly is not necessarily the right thing. It's always good to allow things to develop and find out more information before you take action. You look what had happened, and they took action, they suspended him, the video came out. Who knows if they saw it before they suspended? But the point is, the video came out to the public, and the public saw it, and you saw that outcry, and then there was a reaction. And the reaction was to suspend him for even longer. So at the end of the day, what the NFL needs to learn is to exercise patience and really take a look at how things happen. You look at the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick. You know, there was a situation where he was accused of rape, and the story just really went to nothing, because that's exactly what it was. Were the guys in a bad situation in that hotel room, in that condo in Miami, with the woman being drunk, and yeah, it was a bad situation, and they as guys got to know to not put themselves in those type of situations, use better judgment. But the point is, she had accused them of something that they didn't do. If the NFL would have acted swiftly and punished Kaepernick and the 49ers for those supposed actions, once it came out that it didn't happen, they would have been left to try to react and try to put a cover over their error. So my point is, you need to always exercise patience in these type of things and give the person not the benefit of the doubt, but understand that somebody is innocent until proven guilty, not guilty till proven innocent.
And finally, can you tell me what you foresee as the future of Ray Rice in the NFL?
Yeah, I touched on it earlier. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be on a roster. In all honesty, his last year with the Ravens was not the most productive year. He and Bernard Pierce together were the bottom two. They were two of the bottom three yards per carry in the NFL. Now, granted, when you have two guys with a yards per carry that low, you definitely have to put something on the offensive line. But Ray Rice has he's over 30 now, you know, and you know the saying about running backs over 30. So there's just so many things that are pointing in the wrong direction for him. I really would be surprised if a team were to sign him at this point right now.
For the True Man Advantage podcast, I'm Kevin McShann.